If Americans don't stand up for their rights, they will be steamrolled time and time again by government tyranny. We'll look at a prime example in today's analysis behind the news. If you're concerned about American independence and freedom, then please watch and take the recommended actions. Also, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so we can break through big tech censorship and reach many others. This week, the Epoch Times reported that 1,600 scientists have signed a declaration stating that there is no climate emergency. How many government officials will be deliberately ignoring this consensus? How many Republicans and related conservatives are willing to go along to get along on this issue? And if you don't know, well, then you might want to find out in a real hurry. According to the New American, 14 cities have signed on to a pledge to ban meat, dairy products, and yes, private vehicles by the year 2030. That's only 7 years away. Seem too outrageous to be true? Well, let's click over to the C40 website. It reads, C40 is a global network of nearly 100 mayors of the world's leading cities that are united in action to confront the climate crisis. What kind of action, you might ask? Well, the specifics can be found in its 2019 report, The Future of Urban Consumption in a 1.5 degree Celsius World. On page 78, the report indicates 2 levels of targets for reducing an individual's intake of meat. A progressive target of up to 2/3 reduction by 2030, and an ambitious target of being 100% meat-free by 2030. The reason for this? That if these guidelines are followed, then food category emissions can be cut from 51% to 60% by the year 2050. Similarly, for clothing, page 82 shows a progressive target of only 8 new clothing items per person per year, and the ambitious target drops that down to 3. Even more shocking are the targets for private transport on page 86. The report indicates that those in the cities average about 240 vehicles per 1,000 people. The progressive target is set for 190 vehicles per 1,000 people, while the ambitious target, wait for it, drops that to 0, again, by the year 2030. It also explains that cars should last 20 years for progressive and 50 years for ambitious. Well, good luck with that. Page 94 of the 2019 report covers electronics and household appliances, suggesting a 7-year lifetime span for both targets. Keep in mind that the federal government is unconstitutionally micromanaging the specifications of many appliances, which can significantly shorten the life of the appliance. Have you purchased a new washer lately? Or perhaps those pretty-looking stainless refrigerators that the outside will last forever, but the junk components on the inside render it prematurely obsolete. For what you're going to spend on replacement parts, you're better off putting that into a new one. Finally, page 74 suggests various consumption interventions for buildings and infrastructure. It suggests lowering demand for new buildings from 10% for the lower target and 20% for the higher target. Given the current demand for homes, the market is not calling for less, but more. And any place that is not growing is reflective of a population that is shrinking. And as the literature continues to point out, less consumption equals less emissions. I'll let you extend the lines on that one in regards to population reduction. This is what happens when climate action is not challenged. And by the way, Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum supports the C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group. Recall the WEF is a promoter of owning nothing and being happy. Why? Because property ownership gets in the way for those wanting to run your life. Because of climate change action, there are more than 80 landowners in South Dakota being sued in eminent domain court proceedings because they are not willing to sell easements to a private company for a carbon capture pipeline. Again, this is what happens when climate action is not challenged. The consequences are very real. The United Nations has been active in this the longest and promotes a thorough and lasting reinvent of the world, all to achieve dubious sustainable development goals. The UN has wormed its way into nearly all levels of government in American society through its Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030 projects. These are projects that the John Birch Society has fought against for many years, crippling Agenda 21 in many locations throughout the country. As the United Nations and other supporters of this radical agenda brazenly point out, this will reboot society to incorporate the environment into every single decision that you will make. And what entity is big enough to ensure this is being enforced? Only government is big enough to do so. In fact, the type of control needed to ensure compliance can only come from a world government, of which the United Nations is only too happy to help facilitate. Folks, there is a battle that has been raging against American independence, sovereignty, and God-given rights for many years. If we lose, freedom is gone. The story of America will have an abrupt ending with its absorption into a new world order, headed by these international governmental bodies. The John Birch Society has been exposing this for 65 years. There will be many that will say that they didn't know about the battle. And if one side doesn't show up on the battlefield, victories for the other side will abound, until one day it'll be too late to do anything at all about it. Fortunately, we know what to do about it. Now more than ever, we need to educate the electorate and recruit other patriots into action. We must defund the United Nations and work toward getting the U.S. out of the United Nations. Also, we must work locally to stop these asinine and anti-American initiatives in your town or city. With billions of federal dollars already being spent on this, it's only a matter of time until it lands squarely in your community. Join with other patriots at the John Birch Society today to stop these globalists from making advances in your area and to protect and preserve this great experiment of freedom. Will you answer the call for patriotic leadership? All links are in the video description. I'm Bill Hahn for the John Birch Society. Until next time, learn more and take action.